Apple released today what I made a video about a couple of weeks ago, Apple Creator Studio. And so I thought I'd take a second and talk about what it is that they've released here. Um, if you're not familiar, this is their creative suite of programs, but for some reason they've made the ones that are in the suite look different. I guess to not be confusing. Um, Final Cut, Logic Pro, Pixelmator Pro, Keynote, Pages, Numbers, Freeform, Motion, Compressor, Mainstage. Now, I use Final Cut, and to tell you the God's honest truth, I kind of hate it. It works bass backwards most of the time, and I just it it doesn't cost me any money because I already bought it, and that should give you a hint of what it is that I have to say about this. I've owned Logic Pro since Logic 9. I've used it since before Apple bought Logic. Pixelmator Pro, if I'm not mistaken, is an iPad app that I guess they've brought to the whole. They brought it over to the Mac. Keynote is presentations, pages is word processing, numbers is spreadsheets. Freeform is like a mind mapping planning thing. Motion is where you can make all the fancy things that you all the fancy things that you want your videos to do. And Compressor outputs those videos in whatever different resolution you might want and whatever way you might want it. And Mainstage is a live performance, I guess the easiest way to say it, a live performance version of Logic. And I am of two minds on this. The whole suite costs $12.99 a month or $129 a year, which is not a bad deal. And if you're an educator or a student, you get it for $3 a month or $30 a year. I used to be an educator, and I used to get the whole Adobe suite for like $30 a year, and it was and I was fine with that. And I guess if you get all of this, and Pixelmator Pro can do kind of the thing that Canva does for a lot of people. I mean, I've spent money on Canva every year since Canva became a thing because it just became so much easier to do that stuff on Canva than it was to do it anywhere else piecemeal. But not being familiar with Pixelmator Pro, maybe it's worth it. I don't know. Canva is a pretty well developed entity at this point. It costs $100 and something itself a year, but it was a price I was willing to pay. But these days, everything is a subscription. Everything is a subscription. I just made a video about trying Suno with some music, a demo and some lyrics that I had. In order to do that and like test out a few other AI things, I had to spend like $100 in monthly subscription just so I could try it, and that's kind of a drag. And I have so many other subscriptions around, and now it's just another subscription. I mean, one of the reasons that Apple makes these programs, and it doesn't matter as much as it used to, but one of the reasons Apple makes these programs is to keep you on their hardware. Like, if I didn't use Logic Pro for 20 plus years now, I probably would have left the Mac a long time ago. DaVinci Resolve and other programs like, what's the Adobe one? Premiere. They're both, DaVinci Resolve and Premiere are both better apps than Final Cut. and they're both developed and updated and new features and all that kind of stuff, a whole lot more than Final Cut. But Final Cut is something I paid for, so I feel like I have to stay. And so maybe on that front, now this is a subscription, you can just go away. But of everything that's on here, the only thing I don't already own is Pixelmator Pro. That's the only thing that I haven't already bought for myself. If you're coming in and you're brand new to the game and you wanna do all that stuff, then this might be a good deal for you. But what bothers me about subscription model is it's like the car payment that never ends. You will forever, in perpetuity, continue to pay month after month and year after year for this. If this is your career, you'll pay for it. And yes, everything that you've done up to that point, it will still work in the program, but you can't change it. I saw today that somebody took something from, I think it was Pixelmator, and put it into one of the programs. They took an image and put it from the Creator Studio and put it into its like standalone app version, and that had like watermark on it. It said Creator Studio all over it, which those are some guardrails that Apple didn't really tell us about in the I mean, I guess it's probably in the fine print. The fact that these work, Final Cut and Logic Pro, both work on Mac and iPad, that was something I wanted for a long time. And I thought that it would be awesome. But both Final Cut for iPad and Logic Pro for iPad are not as good. I find the interface for Logic Pro for Final Cut Pro on iPad to be really weird and wonky, and they make you go through the photos. Maybe if I used it longer, I would understand how it works. But my thought is, if you have a program that you're taking from the computer and bringing to the iPad, it should work the same way when you get there, so that you won't have to relearn the app all over again. And I think really the only thing that's interesting that Final Cut for iPad can do that you can't do on the Mac version is you can like write on the videos. Logic Pro is more like GarageBand on the iPad, and that's kind of drag. The thing that really bothers me about Logic Pro on iPad, and the thing that I think will keep a lot of people from using it who are seriously into the music making game, as it were, is that unless something changed that I didn't hear about, and I have been paying attention, you can't use third-party plugins on the iPad. And so that means everything that you use has to be the Apple versions of compressors and all that kind of stuff. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But a lot of people who have been doing recording on the computer, I mean, they certainly have a library of third-party plugins that they would be very sad to leave behind just so they could work on their stuff on the iPad and on the Mac. So there are some holes in what I had hoped would be like, it would be a perfect world if I could use both on the iPad. I can't really say anything about Pixelmator Pro, and maybe I will go and try it out. I mean, you can get a month free of this and try it out, and then from there you can start paying or not pay, I guess. So if you were paying for Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro on the iPad, that was $5 a month. So you could look at it as for For $3 extra a month, you're getting 8 more programs. Not a bad deal. But if you own these apps, nothing is going to change. Apparently, from all the videos that I watched today, apparently Logic and Final Cut Pro that are just the standalone apps that you could buy for a couple $100, which it pays for itself. I've been doing this I've been using Logic for over 20 years, and I've been using Final Cut Pro since like 2017. So I've already recouped my whole investment there, and that's what I prefer. The subscription thing is going to be the bane of everyone's existence for years and years to come. And while Apple has made this reasonable, they have not made it easy, because now you have all of these apps, but if you decide that you don't want to use them anymore, then you have to go someplace else and pay a new subscription. And it just kind of sucks. If you want my advice, okay, if you're somebody who wants to do this content creation thing, and you want to do it on a Mac, then I would say buy Final Cut. If you want to do music, buy Logic and have that one-time cost. And then Pixelmator Pro, you can get any kind of, any kind of thing like that all over the place. And like I say, Canva is $120 a year. I can't remember. But Keynote, you already have access to if you have a Mac. Pages, you already have access to if you have a Mac. Numbers, Freeform, they're all there. And then I bought Motion and Compressor when I was trying to round out my collection of these creative apps that Apple offers. And I don't think I've ever used Motion. My videos don't need or want, and I don't have the time, nor do I have the skills to use Motion. And I've used Compressor before, but I'm not. See, if I were working on multiple projects a day and I was just banging out video after video, and they had to be in different formats, and they do all this other stuff, and compressors, you just send it all to Compressor, and Compressor does all that work. You don't have to do it in Final Cut. Okay, that's fine. But I don't use it very much. MainStage I used to have access to, but at somewhere along the line, Apple took away access to MainStage with your fully paid for Logic Pro. And as somebody who's done this now, I've been a graphic designer, I've been a recording engineer, I've been a writer, I've worked at newspapers, I've used all of these programs over the years, many times. And yes, I have seen things go from Quark Express to InDesign on the Adobe side and a bunch of other stuff, but they generally work the way they work, and that's fine. If I am somebody who's going to continue to do this work for a long time, and there's a choice whether or not to buy the app or pay a monthly subscription, I'm buying the app, because it will save you money in the long run to own the app, period. Full stop. And not only that, but what the hell is up with these icons? This looks like it's made for kids in preschool. It's ugly. It's ugly. And I know that doesn't matter, but I just had to get it out there. I felt like I had to come on and talk about this. If it's ever possible and you can find a way to scrape together the nickels and dimes to buy an app, buy it. because you'll learn to use it, and then you'll be like, hey, I can do everything in this. I know how to do it, and I don't have to keep hop, skipping, and jumping from one thing to the next because the subscription price just went up for that thing over there. Always buy the apps. If you're a dabbler and you're not sure, then sure, do the subscription for a while. But if you find that you are going to continue to do this for the long haul, buy Final Cut, buy Logic Pro. Everything else that mattered, like Keynote, all that stuff, is already on your Mac. Motion and compressor you don't need. Main Stage, if you're not a performer, you don't need Main Stage. And Pixelmator Pro is, well, it's an unknown to me, but it doesn't look good just by looking at the icon. If you're interested in me trying these things out and maybe using the entire Apple Creative Suite to see how well it stacks up to the stuff that I do otherwise, let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for sticking around and listening to me just ramble on for 16 minutes about this thing. I'll talk to you all later.